Hey, welcome back. If you've seen some of my videos, I've brought out this custom Demko AD20.5 a few times. It has a really cool regrind on it, and it has these RGT micarta scales. And I keep looking at it, and it's just not me for some reason. So I wanted to try out. I ended up sourcing from actually the same seller these G10 factory Demko scales. I believe they're factory Demko. I actually don't know for sure. They're sold as Demko on knifecenter.com. But now that I mentioned that, I feel like maybe somewhere I saw that someone else was making them, but I'm just not sure. I think they are Demko authentic, but they're G10. I was actually initially got them to put them on my EDC, my most common carry knife, this Grivery one, but the more I've been around these, the more I've realized I actually really like the Grivery on this knife. It's just not bad, and so I'm leaving that one as is. And I thought I'd like to see what this might look like with this configuration. So I thought it might just be a little more my style. And then I think these are kind of hard to come by, and I thought I might make those available to some community member that might, like them more than I do. So let's get to work. We're going to start with the pivot bearing here, which I believe is a T10. Now that I'm saying that, I'm questioning myself as per usual, but I believe it's a T10. I know on the AD20 it is, and the AD20S it is. And indeed, here it is as well. Now on the AD20 and in the AD20S, the other hardware is also a T8. I think on this one it's a T6. Yeah, it looks like it's a T6. So that's kind of a bummer, but it's fine. Now, if you saw the video when I first got this knife, it came with, it was kind of funky one. It came with washers in it, and some aftermarket washers. So I swapped those out and got really good results just going back to the factory bearings, and it works brilliantly despite the aftermarket scales. So my thought here is I'll go through a similar breakdown, rebuild, and the hope is that it'll operate as a new one would, even though it's got these G10, again, non-standard scales. Now this particular one, I normally only buy knives that come with original parts so I can swap them back, just my style. This particular one, the price was right, and I felt like, in its current config, I might just kind of like it as is. I do, but again, like, it's just not quite me. Like, I looked around for some other options. What I'd like to find would be some nice fat carbon scales. I think that could make this knife really cool. I think that could really take it to the next level. But these micarta ones just aren't quite my jam. So let's see how this thing turns out once I get the G10 scales on it. And if I am still not in love, then I'm going to probably try and track down some fat carbon to emulate the AD22. And if you're not familiar, Demko produces at a lot of the shows an AD22 that is a full custom version of the not a version of the AD20.5, but it's basically the size of the AD20.5 fully custom. So to me, a very, very compelling configuration. So let's get into this and get it apart. And what we're gonna have to do is swap the pins and the steel liners and everything. And I gotta be careful because this thing is really sharp, actually. So just wanna take my time, not lose the spring. Spring stayed right where I wanted it to, so that was great. And then we'll get into here and get everything pointed in the right direction and back together. So beautiful blade. That it's a oh, I just forgot the name of the guy that does the regrind on that. Let's see, RGT and BGM, I think is what it's called on the regrind there. So you can see here this scale has a liner that runs the full length of it. So we're gonna get that liner out of there, get these pins out, and swap this all over. It'll be pretty darn simple. You can see that's pretty similar, like from an inside perspective, they're almost identical on these. So you can really just drop this in. Now I'm looking at the bearings and I think those are actually backwards. I think they should be, no, that's right. Those are correct. Those should be facing that direction. So I'll throw a little, sorry if you hear my 3-year-old yelling at the dog in the background. They're working on their relationship and their emotional intelligence still. The two of them don't always get along perfectly. And what I'll do probably is drop this back in through here to make it so everything can kind of sit on it. Let's see. Okay, so we've got this all apart. Let's see if this all comes out cleanly. It'd be nice if I can just do what I did on the other side and pull this out without having to like fully reassemble everything. I've got a little issue with this guy. It was spinning, I just remembered. So I didn't get that fully unscrewed, which will be needed in order to make this swap happen. Thought for a second it might be stripped, but luckily it's not. All right, so now we can pull this guy out. Let's take that out. And put this over here. Drop this one in here. Make sure everything looks nice and clean in there. A lot of times when I have these open, I'll just clean everything out and make sure they're good. I have not put a lot of wear on this since the last time I took it apart on video, but can't hurt. I actually don't think I really gave it a cleaning that time, so really can't hurt to just wipe things down a little bit more and make sure you're starting from a nice blank slate. I personally use a tissue for this. I probably would benefit from some more disposable rags where you're not going to leave any, tissue residue behind. But, I didn't realize I was doing all of that off screen. My bad. Let's get this camera work together. Come on. And I'll just clean inside of the shark lock too. There's some interesting wear points on these if you think about what happens. So I clean in here on the outside of the shark lock. That's some of the wear points. Basically it's going to rub in between the scales like this, so you're going to get some dirt and stuff on there, and then it's going to touch the blade right here. You can see the wear on there. And then I'll just go ahead and drop this guy where it belongs. And I've found pretty frequently it kind of helps to do this. Now let's see, what's the best way to do this? Yeah, probably put the spacers on this side. So I'll just sort of preload the spacers onto this side of the knife, because that one has the pivot hardware in it, which I can take it out for doing this, but I just find this to be kind of, for some reason, an easy way to sandwich everything together. Excuse my sniffles over here if you hear them at all. That time of year in the winter. And then we've got all the pivot hardware in now, or not the pivot hardware, but the standoffs. Now, if you know these knives, the factory doesn't have a standoff on the AD20.5 as a backspacer like that. So this is kind of cool that this one had some aftermarket standoffs on it and stuff. Then I'll just get a little bit again of lubricant on here. And what we'll do is we'll drop, let me give a quick wipe on these guys too, just for being thorough. Just wiping those down real quickly. And then we'll drop these. Actually, we're going to do these on this side. And that way you can sandwich down on top of them. Always trying to perfect the most efficient way of putting this knife together and getting it right on the first try, given the lock has a tendency to pop out and stuff. So face, that looks good. So this is going to go here, and I will want to lubricate in here very lightly. You don't need a lot. Right, anywhere it's going to touch. So that's up here. And back here. And then I'm just going to clean up a little bit. I got a little too much on there. Oops. Don't want to make too much of a mess here. All right, and then we're just going to drop that spacer back in. Okay, and from here, we're going to put the blade in place. And then put a little lubricant in here too, because that's definitely a wear point against those standoffs. And then we'll just get some lubrication on here. It's actually better to do it on the lock itself, because then you get the right points as opposed to putting it on the liner. And then drop the spring back in, which can be a little bit tricky. Luckily that one went right in. And then get a little lubricant right here as well. Boom. And I think we are good to go. If everything works out right, which the biggest problem here is just making sure that bearing is pointing in the right direction and stuff. Nope, didn't work out right. That was what I was mentioning, so we will try that again. So you get the spring in place. Just gonna get a little more on here since I took some of it off by mistake there with my finger. There we go. Now everything should operate. Okay. And then we can come over to the other side. Oh, first drop the pivot hardware in there. And then we'll jump on the other side and get these back spacers, first of all, popped in like that. Just get any lubrication off there, excess lubrication. Okay, now we can put in these back spacers from this side. I'm just going to use a towel real quick. Get some of that lubricant off there. And back to everybody's favorite, the T6. You got two long screws that go where the pocket clip is. Make sure not to put the wrong screws in the wrong place. I mentioned it before in videos, I try to just go kind of finger tight until I get everything into place. And then we're gonna focus on getting this in here nice and secure. And then we'll come back to the back spacers again last. So I like to kind of like, I wouldn't say over tighten it, but like get it nice and firm. And then it's probably not gonna be quite good. I just back off a little bit. And then make sure I have good lockup. And then I just barely tweak it a tad bit until I have good lockup again. I could almost give it just a touch more. And as long as I'm still getting, it's just this balance of trying to get good lockup and still keep it nice and loose. That feels like about perfect, yeah. So let's take a look at it. Hang on one sec, just gonna get a little more cleanup done over here off the screen where I can see it better. It's one of the things about black is it shows everything. If you've ever had a black car, you know what I'm talking about. All right, so mold scales, very cool, don't get me wrong. For the right person, I think they're gonna be awesome. I just got a feeling someone's gonna like them more than I do. New ones feel good. Definitely like the feeling in hand. Nice and smooth. I feel like I can maybe go a touch. Yeah, that's about right. And now I'll knock out those back spacers. Let's make sure these are nice and tight, nothing crazy. Don't want to strip them out. And yeah, now we're back to, you know, Demko parts. It does have the BGM regrind on it, but might have gone too tight there. Yeah. Let's see. Feels good. Feels good. Yeah, it's a little tight. I think I have skiffs in this one right now, so I might be just a little spoiled also. The skiffs are a little smoother than those factory steel pressed bearings. They're a little nicer. But yeah, that's more of what I was going for with this one. See if I can get you some good light on it. That looks pretty sweet. A little more of a factory look. What I was going for here in switching these back to these G10 was more of like a, if you know the Demko customs, sometimes they'll be in like a G10 or mostly are titanium or fat carbon. But you know, you basically have an authentic Demko with this really nice sort of grind style. And I wanted this to feel a little more like one of those Demko customs as opposed to this is cool and all, but it's not like Demko's never done anything in this style that I can recall. And yeah, just wanted this to feel a little more factory custom as opposed to aftermarket, if you will. Just my style. I've seen some really cool aftermarket modified AD20.5s, and don't get me wrong, those are awesome. This is just a little more me, so as more of a collector as opposed to you know, someone that does a lot of modifications on knives. That's a bit cooler for me. Now I have, as an example, taken my Devo Stout and taken authentic Devo parts like the backspacer and these fat carbon, all right, that Devo sells, they're factory parts, and updated this to what I, you know, kind of like from a style point, a little more blacked out, and used their, again, factory blacked out to take out the logo, Pivot Hardware. So, you know, when I think about what I like in a custom knife, I really like when the manufacturers provide some aftermarket options like this. Let me see if I can get a little more light in here. And that just comes together really nicely for me. So I'm going to get these listed on the Demko Knives Facebook group. It's probably the place where I find people buy the most aftermarket parts and stuff. And if you're interested in them, feel free to let me know. I think those are, I was looking at RGT. They don't make these ones anymore, but I think they're like $69 new based on what they're selling their other ones for. So be somewhere around that price, a little less probably because they're pre-owned. They're in really good condition though. This doesn't look like this knife was like not used, so they're basically like new. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Please like, subscribe, comment if you have any other ideas on what I might do with this thing. And I will see you on the next one. Take care.